So now we're looking at the rotor, which is pretty clean, not too dusty or dirty. And this has the oiling grooves. You can see it running in a spiral up the shaft. And the idea of that is that it's supposed to take oil from the big felt and bring it all the way up. And so, you know, the oil that's on there, it's pretty thick and wretched. So we are going to attempt to clean this up a bit. Some people use WD-40. I'm going to use rubbing alcohol for right now, which is what I have in the house. So there you go. All right, these 4 felts, one of which you can see right here, it's entirely possible that they go all the way down to the other side, and that's what you're seeing here, the other side of those felts, because they don't seem to want to come out of there. So it's entirely possible that those 4 felts run all the way up. And what would that do? Well, that might keep the oil recycling back and forth from the felt, from the front to the back, to the front to the back. Interesting, huh? I don't know how well that was working. I'm soaking this guy, the big guy, and then we're going to pat it down and see if we can get some of the crap to come out of it with some paper towel. So that's kind of interesting on the design of that. It does look like the stator might come out of here. There are 3 screws, and there are these recesses where someone may have already, you know, tried to pry this out of here. One of the people that commented on the last video said that it does look like the motor's been messed with on the wiring side of things. So it's entirely possible that this has been a part in its past. Yeah, so we're gonna have to see what happens and move forward. Now here's the first felt, the U-shaped felt, and we're just gonna sort of pat it with paper towel and see if we can get the alcohol out and see if any other, something's coming out of there. I mean, you know, the alcohol is white, so this does indicate that something came out of there. We'll throw it back in, let it soak for a little longer. On this one, there was 2 felts. Let's pull them out. 1 and 2. One was the front, one was the back, but they look like the same stock. I don't think they're that different from each other. And again, we're just going to press them and get the alcohol out of them, and hopefully doing this a few times will flush out any of the gummed up oil that was in there. We'll just throw them back in. This process, I'm going to do that 2 or 3 times. I'm not going to show you all of it. Alright, so I've cleaned the shaft. I used a toothbrush and some rubbing alcohol, and I'm using these Q-tips to run in and dry it up and make sure there's no gunk on there, and they're coming out pretty clean. It looks like we've got as much of this as we're going to be able to get off of there, all the way down to the bearing on the flat side of the other side where it'll rest when it's in running position. So we seem to have gotten everything. There's a little stuff coming out of there, but I think that's pretty darn clean, especially for a motor that's probably going to short out, that has electrical problems. But this is the process for cleaning the oil and making sure that these are in much better condition. And as I run this on here, you can see that the oil grooves are open and clear, and not a lot is coming off onto the paper towel. So I feel like that's pretty good. Now at the front, and again you can see the bronze bearing at the end, and we're just going to kind of clean off some of that. And we did get a little stuff here on the end. We just want to make sure we get as much of it as we can so that we feel like we've done a pretty good job cleaning it out. I haven't really looked through the bearing yet. I'm assuming that it looks okay. There's some scoring and marking in there. I don't know if that's supposed to be like that. I think there was a high spot on this. This didn't exactly pull out of here very easily. And here where the groove is. So I may have actually damaged this taking it apart. Let's see if I can show you that. See that? It looks like sound wave running down there. That could have been me doing that, pulling this apart, because it was a little stiff getting this thing out of here. Doesn't feel that bad, but it is a little rough here on the end where the C-clip goes in. I might have been smarter to run a little emery cloth over here before I pulled it through. That's something to note for the next time we do one of these. So, yeah, note to self, don't force it. And that's, yeah, so that's something to think about. And that's why we're doing this. It's why I'm doing this fan, is to learn things as I go forward, so that when I work on the other two, I don't screw them up. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. Right now I'm going to flip it over. There appears to have been some sort of a plating on the outside of this surface here, and it seems to have moved around and is not quite where it was before. You can see that it's kind of hanging over onto the outside lip of the bearing right here. It's sort of strange, but you know, whatever. Not sure what that's all about, but I'm just getting it as clean as I can. We're still getting some stuff comes off of there. Sorry I'm low talking. Low talker. Low talker, talking low. How low does the talking go? Alright, so there's some of the thicker gunk that was keeping this from moving freely. Alright, do a little more and then we'll come back. You say, why is he going through all this? Well, look at all the stuff that just came out of those felts. So yeah, there's a lot, and you could probably do a lot more. You can see on this one that was on the rear, I don't know if it's showing this, but some of that sparkly plating that I was talking about is on that felt. Interesting. So we'll have to see what happens with that, and I'm just going to let these dry. They should, all the alcohol should evaporate, and then we'll be ready to impregnate them with oil. Woohoo! Impregnate. Ha ha.